What a year it has been and a half it has been. I know that's probably an understatement at this point. We all have our own stories. January 1st of last year, JP and I were traveling to the Philippines to see family and friends, very excited to go to the other side of the world and visit folks that are very special to us. What a great trip. And I remember even at that time, at that point in our timeline, rumblings of things going on. We had 2 layovers in Beijing, wasn't thinking about it at the time, was terrified after the point, and when things really started coming to be. While we were there, something really amazing happened, and I swore when it happened that it would be the highlight for many years, and I'd be talking about it to everyone, unending. We had a beautiful opportunity to go to a small island. The Philippines is a bunch of small islands, but the beauty that's there is just unparalleled. And to get there, you have to be in a prop plane. So we were flying back, and the pilot said, if you look out your right side of the plane, you'll see a volcano exploding. And I, the tourist, was like, wow, a volcano. This is what happens when you visit islands. They have volcanoes and things that you see. When I noticed that the Filipinos in the plane were panicking, I paused and said, maybe there's more to this volcano, but it was beautiful. The lightning was coming from the ground and from the sky and exploding in the plume, and the view was once in a lifetime. It was astounding. 1 week before that, we were having brunch in that volcano. And we have pictures, and JP said, you see all beautiful, lush, the fish beds, the houses, the people. And he said, one explosion, one eruption of that volcano, and all of these people lose their homes. All of those fish beds that are the only livelihood that these people have is gone. And then it happened on that trip. We landed and found out the only reason we could land is because we were in a prop plane, and we were the last plane to land, and we were stranded in the Philippines for some days. It was tremendous. I feel like that once-in-a-lifetime event that was so beautiful and kind of scary and exciting really got eclipsed by the couple of months that followed. We had just spent, leading up to the announcement of things here in this country, 2 months of unparalleled work here. Almost every show was sold out. In January, where venues closed because no one goes to see live shows. We had just finished an unparalleled year, 2019, 450 events and 60,000 people through the doors. We were just all astounded that was what was going on. March 8th, the St. Patrick's Day in Milton, if any of you have been to it, it is something to go to. It's a lot of people. We were packed. It was Candy's first day working, I think, wasn't it? And we were just slammed. It was unbelievable. Lines down the street, thousands of people in town. The streets were lined with people. This is March 8th. And we had the highest sales day we'd ever had in the history of the Milton Theater that day. It was packed outside. Had a show inside, I think. We had shows outside. March 9th, we left for New York City for meetings and to do some work there. And those next couple of days were crazy. March 11th, we had tickets to the final preview of what was being called the next huge Broadway hit, Six the Musical. We're super excited to see the final preview. Things were getting kind of crazy in New York City, but we were like, we just survived a volcano. What could happen? You just think, like, what's really going on? I don't know. And we were listening to the news and hearing those things. We were walking to get in line for the show that night, and then people were unusually chatty. And on Broadway, the lines stretch down the street, and you wait to go in, and people were all on their phones, and all of a sudden the news broke that one of the ushers from Six the Musical tested positive for COVID that morning. So now there's a mutual discussion of people that we don't even know. Do we go in? Do we not go in? And somehow we all collectively decided we go in. and watched the show. And then the next morning we got up to go about our business and got an email, your show's canceled tonight. And I was like, that's really weird. Shows don't get canceled for anything, nothing. Snowstorms, shows still go on. Doesn't matter. There could be 2 feet of snow on the ground, the show still happens. It's the best time to get cancellation tickets and sit in the front row and watch your favorite show, if you're in the city. And then we got the word that Broadway was shutting down, and then things were shutting down. And the next 2 hours, we literally were running to the train station with our bags. So I thought, if they shut the city down and we can't get out of the city, we didn't have train tickets. We got train tickets, we got on the train, and we're going, and we're in the tunnel, and I swear I could hear the movie soundtrack playing as we came out of the tunnel, and the light was there, and I was like, this is just unreal. Just unreal. Things were starting to really come to a head, leading into March 13th, with a state shutdown here. The government announced a nationwide pandemic. We had an artist on an airplane coming from LA, and he got off, and I was like, get back on any plane you can get on and get back to the West Coast, your home, because no one really knows what's going to happen. But for me, March 13th is the day the world stopped. We realized we were shutting the theater down. The thoughts of what this would be or not be, what it meant to all the people working here, it was overwhelming. It was really overwhelming. Then we had our quarantine, can't see family, can't see friends, can't see anyone. Over a 2-week period, we laid everyone except one person off. And for 2 weeks I cried. That's the truth. It was people that I'd known for years and worked with for years. And I felt like I couldn't function. And I know we all have those stories in the way life happened and all of the sequence of events then leading those months later of closed and open and closed and open and all the things that came along with that. I ultimately lost my father to COVID at the beginning of this year. This is a time in history. I thought of my grandparents that went through the wars. And I remember all the grandkids, and they were like, what is wrong with them? Why do they keep talking about the war? And I was like, oh my God, that is literally going to be me, talking to people who didn't go through this. Like, you don't understand what happened when all of that happened. It's just monumental. It's been difficult for every one of us. There's been a lot for every one of us. This place went through so many transformations. Completely closed for 3 months. Laid everybody off except for one person. We worked remotely to just do the things that we needed to do, which was a lot. We were selling stock out the back door because we thought all of this is going to go bad. Let's at least sell it and maybe be able to pay the electric bill. That was the mindset. And we were private messaging people. Come get it. This is how much it is. A case of hot dogs, $20, get it. $80,000 in refunds in just the first 2 months. Unprecedented. Our ticketing company froze all of our funds. This is the things that were going on in the world. We had tens of thousands of dollars, more than that, supposed to be coming. They froze all the funds because they panicked, but they had our money. Everything was frozen. Nothing was moving. Nothing was happening. All the canceled shows, the talent not coming and doing a show, tens of thousands of dollars out in deposits and things on shows. That's where we were at that point. Before anything even opened in the state of the Delaware, I thank God that we live in the state we do, because everybody knows everybody. It's good and bad. But you can kind of get to the governor. And we went through the people that we know and said, The answer, you know, all along the way, you can say, no, 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 but please let us be at the table and then have a representation as a venue in the state. And so we were told to put together a plan that if venues could reopen, what it would look like. And we sat with our staff, most who were furloughed, and said, what does this look like? Not just for us, but for all venues. What does it look like? So we put together a page or a page and a half of just a very basic, gathered everything we could gather. We were doing research from other countries and what they were doing, because we were kind of a little bit behind over here, and put this together and submitted it. And then the details came out for the June reopening of the state, and their only reopening was venues, and how they could safely reopen, and how the state was going to permit them to reopen. And the very first week that we could reopen, we reopened. I think we had like 50 people. We were spread out and staying away, and plexiglass and stuff everywhere. Everyone was masked and sanitized and wipe and don't breathe. Just hold your breath while you're watching the show. But I'm glad we did. I'm pretty sure about 10 times a day I was like, this would have been a lot easier to stay closed. Because the world was stressed, we were stressed, we were dealing with people coming out for the first time after 3 months of being locked in a closet. And it was crazy, but I'm really grateful that we did. Part of that is probably my crazy in that I can't sit still. So if you'll let me just do something for 2 people, I'll do it for 2 people. If it's 10 people, I'll do it for 10 people. I got to do something though. So we really kind of ramped it up very slowly and started gaining the confidence of some people. At the same time, we were able to purchase the outdoor stage. One of the foundations said, look, this money was supposed to be, I believe, for the balcony, is that correct? And you can use this money to buy a mobile stage and put outside. We were able to find one. And before we had a stage, we said, we got a tent, we're good. We got a tent and electricity, we're good, we'll do shows outside, and we did. And then we got the stage. So generous. The foundations were also generous throughout that time. Longwood Foundation did the same thing. They came back and said, look, we just gave you this grant. You can use up to 50% of this grant to just survive. What an amazing thing. What an amazing, amazing thing to watch in the middle of the craziness, them to pause and go, oh, these people that we're caring for, we need to figure out how we're taking care of them. And hired a bunch of staff back. That was going well, and then toward the end of the summer, we had to lay staff off again, up and down, up and down, up and down. Got into the fall, it looked like maybe it was better, and then the winter happened, which was crazy. We closed back down again in the middle of December, shut down completely, put people back on furlough, and just waited until we reopened again in January. And now since January, we've watched a steady increase of our work and what we're doing. We're now, I can report to you, back to 7 full-time people, 4 part-time people working on this project and making this go forward. We're back to our regular 4 days of events, 1 day of education. Many of our event days, we have 2 events. Because of the weekends, we'll do matinees and evening shows. Our education program, which was online for a while, we did our summer camps for 2 summers in a row during the pandemic. The first summer when everything just reopened, parents that we know well and have been here for years were sending us emails and said, I don't care if they sit in 4 corners of the outside area, just get them out of my house. And so, because we weren't going to do it, thought, what can we do? And so we had squares, and they stayed in the middle of the square, and they didn't move. There was no staging, there was no blocking. They literally sat, and that's how we did the camps. They socially distanced for lunches. They stayed away from each other. We finally brought the educational program from online to in-house again. The education program has now been running full force and growing. We, in the process, also hired a full-time education director. Corinne is with us, and she's new. We're super excited to have her here. And she has been doing a lot of new programming. our Tuesday night musical theater ensemble is still going. She works in the schools with the kids as well. We just did our first production since the pandemic was a junior production with the kids, Legally Blonde, and that went really, really well. So things are coming back around in that sense. We're also next year going to be getting back to our regular full production season of our professional shows, which we started in 2019. We did Jesus Christ Superstar, we did Next to Normal. And we paused all of that because it was just too hard to manage that and bringing actors from different parts of the country and all of those things. So that will come back again next year. Some great things, other great things that have happened over this time. I was not loving it going through it, but as I look back, I'm grateful for every minute. I'm grateful for every person. I'm grateful for everything that has occurred. It's absolutely astounding to watch how people rallied around this project and around the theater. And people would come and drop $5 at the front and say, just don't close, just don't close. Whatever you need, tell the community what you need, but don't close. And we've been very committed to it. After 5 years, and some of you have been here with us for this journey of being here and really wooing the private owner of the Milton Theater, who bought this building out of bankruptcy and didn't want another nonprofit involved ever again. 5 years it took, and we bought the building during the pandemic. So now the nonprofit owns the building. Yes, that is something we celebrated. The month before, and Leslie, God bless you from here to wherever, because Leslie Eichton is the reason this next thing happened. And I should pull up a couple of these texts and just read them of her saying, Fred, seriously, this has been a lot to ask. We were able to talk the owner of the yellow house in the corner, that beautiful yellow Victorian house that owned the parking lot as the only access to the back of the theater, into entering in to a lease purchase. We started leasing the building, I think the week before everything shut down. Isn't that right? I think it was the week before. And then we were like, great, now we have it. What do we do with it? Everything's closed. So, and then 2 weeks ago, the mortgage was done and we now own that property. Yeah, that's a big milestone. Both of these mortgages on this and that, and we put very large down payments down on them, in the capital campaign will be 100% paid off. When we leave this capital campaign, the nonprofit will be 100% debt-free. That is all part of the money we're raising and what we're doing. Those were taken because we had a window of time and we needed to seize that moment in time. Also, Quayside, which is here, we're in a lease on that. And Annette, who is not with us today, and I met 2 weeks ago. She went and talked with the owners of that property, which we've been talking to for years. And we met with them, and at the end of the meeting, the owner said, we just need to work out the details, but that property is yours. Yeah. So we have Quayside now as permanently a part of what's becoming the Milton Theater campus. Many artists, I started to jump back to the house, but many artists are already staying in the house. It functions like an Airbnb. It's set up with private rooms, and they have a key, they lock their door, they leave their stuff in there. But every weekend we have artists staying there, and Candy, who's on staff, lives in the house as the staff member that kind of oversees that. She deserves a big special thank you because that's a lot to deal with. Because artists can be a lot to handle, and they like to party and all that. And so she really does a great job in addition to being the bar manager. So thank you for that. Zombie Fest came back this year to Milton. We got rained out, but we still had over 2,000 people in town that week for that. We've done lots of food upgrades and bar upgrades. Out of the pandemic, something great that came from the pandemic is we used to only have seating or tables in the front. Once the pandemic was over, we kind of got threatened, and people said, you're not taking those tables away, are you? So we decided to keep the tables all the way through. Another great thing that Mary Lou is going to talk about, we have 100% of the money in the bank, this happened through the pandemic, to 100% pay for the balcony that will start construction the second week of January. It's in the bank. Money is in the bank. So those are some really great things that have happened over this past year and a half, that a year and a half ago, we were like, is this done? Is this theater going to be shuttered again for many years to come? What's going to happen? But that is because of you all and your commitment, the community's commitment to this happening. It's such an important work. And the folks, the staff that you see here, they work so hard day in and day out. Caitlin is the operations manager for the entire Milton Theater. She's amazing. And JP, the marketing director, is amazing with marketing. Connor, who just left her full-time job today with the state of Delaware to come work full-time at the Milton Theater. Because we're more fun. We are more fun. No, I'm kidding. Keenan, who just came back to the East Coast, is joining us next week full-time to also work with us here on this project. Super excited. Did I miss anybody from staff, JP, or anybody else? Did I hit staff? Ryan, behind me. See, the quiet giant in the tech booth who just one push of a button and this is all over. The lights are out, the sound is out. Ryan is amazing and been with us for many years. Did I miss anybody else? I'm sorry. I don't actually have a list in front of me of that. There are so many great things going on. This project will and must work. It must work. Music saved my life. It did. As a young person, anxiety-ridden, depression-ridden, just basically an angsty teenager, and other things, I hid in music. It's why I practiced 4 to 6 hours a day doing what I did. It's why when I was 14, I got a job as a professional musician, and when my friends were working at McDonald's, making whatever the minimum wage was in Delaware back then, I was making a lot of money. Bought my own car for cash when I was 16, paid my own way through college. But I hid in music. It literally saved my life. It was everything that was important to me as a young person. It's what drove me into my career. 35 years, you said, which is true because it's 42 years now that I've been working professionally in this industry. It is so important to me. This project must work for the 11 employees that are here, for the 1,000+ artists that perform on that stage and our stages annually, for the 2,893 as of 2019 Milton residents, that this project before we came, these were boarded up across the street. None of these retail things were here. There were, I think, 3 or 4. But 60,000 people a year need to eat, they need to drink. When they leave here, they need to go do things. Irish Eyes, Dough Bar, they have hours wait to get in when we're full of people. For the 60,000 annual guests that come here, this must work. It must work. We are at a moment in time. This is a really special moment. It is. There is a convergence of interest, of passion, of delight when people come through the doors that has its own life, its own energy. It's its own thing. It must work. You are here to help us do that. All of these people that you see working are here because they are passionate and they want to see it work. It's really important work. And I'm super excited to be here doing it. I love it. It's an amazing project. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you do to make this happen. It's going to work, but it must work. Critically important. Okay. Thank you for lending me your ear to hear some updates and things that are going on